Welcome to the Plant Cunning Podcast,
where we explore a relationship to plants, other people, and the mysteries of nature.
Coming to you from the high Allegheny Plateau in central New York.
We are your hosts, A.C. Staubel
and Isaac Hill.
Hello and welcome to the fall forecast of the Plant Cunning Podcast with our beloved astrologer friend, ZamboniFunk, who is always dropping infinite wisdom about these times through the lens of astrology. And he makes his analogies very relatable and useful when he's talking about the planetary influences. So beginner, intermediate, advanced astrologers will enjoy this forecast. And we're going to talk about building our own personal power as we have Mars and Scorpio coming up. We talk about the eclipse season that we're currently in and the solar eclipse that's occurring on the day before the equinox. And it's a great episode for just empowering all of our listeners to be able to navigate these times with personal power and with honing our predictive abilities so that we can be in the right place at the right time as we're moving through these interesting times. So I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope you'll also join us for the Plant Cunning Conference, which is happening in person next July. It's July 24th to 26th in the flesh at our farm in central New York, and Zamboni says that he wants to be there, and we hope that you'll join us too, and you can check that out at plantcunningconference.com. I'm also launching my herb school, which is beginning in October. So October 12th is the first day of the class, and the cohort will go until June of next year, and it's all about herbal medicine and aromatherapy. It's live and lively classes, so it's not just pre-recorded video content for you to go through at your own pace, at your own time, although the recordings will be available for you to revisit them at any point. But they're really interesting, fun classes with incorporating time for reflection, time for connecting with the other students, time for little quizzes and things to make it interesting, because that's the kind of learning style that I really appreciate, and I like to do things. And so we're going to be doing a lot of herbal medicine making teas and tinctures, and becoming comfortable with using herbs on a daily basis in your own home, and then extending that out into your community or your practice. And we'll also be incorporating aromatherapy with the co-director of the Actea Institute, the name of the school, Gabriel Moget, who's an author and aromatherapist, and he has 30 years teaching experience with teaching about herbal medicine from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective and about aromatherapy. And we're weaving together this really fun program. So it's $150 a month, or you can save a little by paying for it up front. And you can learn more about it at the Actea Institute of Herbal Medicine and Aromatherapy's website, which is just actea.org. Check it out.
Okay, so it is the fall forecast with ZamboniFunk. This is Q4 of 2025, and we've got some fun stuff going on. We've got a lot of planets going, those larger, slower planets, outer planets are coming, they're going retrograde, coming back into the signs. There's some decent, like Venus is going into Libra, Mars is going to Scorpio, Jupiter's still in Cancer, so there's some nice things happening too. But yeah, what are you looking forward to for this fall, Zamboni?
Oh, what am I looking forward to? I am looking forward to Mars in Scorpio primarily, honestly. Maybe this is a personal preference, but I like a strong malefic. I feel like it really gets shit done. And it's also a lot of what we're going to see here. So with Saturn moving back into Pisces from Aries, so for a bunch of the first half of the year, we had Saturn in Aries making this overcoming square to Jupiter in Cancer. And so that has been difficult and has really just been sort of a blockade against Jupiter doing the glorious Jupiter in Cancer nourishment, growth, and prosperity and all that sort of stuff. There's been a challenge and obstacle to that with Saturn overcoming that way. So as Saturn moves back into Pisces, this puts Saturn into a trine relationship with Jupiter and also is ruled by Jupiter. So that's a trine with reception. A trine tends to be friendly, helpful, supportive. It's a situation where they can work together in some kind of way. And so where Jupiter wants to grow things, then Saturn can provide structure and like regularity to it in a way that I think can be really helpful for the growth aspect of Jupiter. And so then that, as well as Mars moving into Scorpio, which is another trine to Jupiter in Cancer. So that actually puts Mars into a trine relationship with both Jupiter in Cancer and Saturn in Pisces. That's a grand trine. That's all three of the water signs working together here. Then this looks like it is a very effective arrangement that is going to be very good for getting shit done. And it really looks like victory to me. And so I really
What are
like
the
that.
dates on that?
We're looking at like Scorpio time. So when the sun is in Scorpio, then that is the time that things start looking really nice. So I'm actually a little wary of the sun being in Libra first, because while the sun is in Libra, then we've still got Venus in Virgo. And so Venus is going to be ruling the sun in Libra. And Venus in Virgo is going to be not only opposite to Saturn in Pisces, but also fallen. And the thing that I always say about Venus in Virgo is that it is a little bit nitpicky. It's very good for copy editing or something like this, where what you need is to get in there with that red pen of death and,
Yeah.
and chop the whole shit up and you when you are writing literature, then you have to be willing to kill your babies, right? Venus in Virgo is very good for that kind of thing, right? But Venus in Virgo is maybe not as good for some of the traditional Venus significations around cooperation and harmony and stuff like this. Like if somebody keeps correcting your grammar every time you try to say something and misses the point of what you're saying or a lot of times Venus in Virgo will intentionally miss the point because you missed a comma splice somewhere or something like this. It's like, you know what I meant.
Right.
And, so Venus in Virgo could sometimes be a little inimical this way, right? So while the sun is in Libra, then I would expect that Venus in Virgo to be pretty loud. And, there's still trouble in that time period. But then as the sun moves into Scorpio, then we've also got Mars in Scorpio. We've got Mercury there in Scorpio as well. I really like Mercury in Scorpio. Maybe that is a me thing. That's a personal placement. I have Mercury in Scorpio, and so maybe that's why I like it so much. But I find that Mercury in Scorpio is very direct. It's very to the point. And I think that Mercury stands to empower that Mars in Scorpio in a really strong way. And so, like what I'm feeling there is maybe a little bit Sun Tzu, Art of War style, like victory. The best victory comes without taking your sword out at all, right?
Yeah.
You won by narrative, right?
Yeah.
You generated a narrative that made the other guy so scared that he surrendered before you had to fight about it. This looks like that kind of arrangement. So I like to see that. And so and the other thing about the sun in Scorpio is that it can't harm Mars in Scorpio because Mars is in his chariot. Mars is at home actually ruling the sun there in Scorpio. And so throughout the sun's time there in Scorpio, I think that we get some really nice skies. And so, just do your OVO thing. And I know how much you love Drake, Isaac.
Yeah.
So October's very own. But then, so while the sun is in Scorpio, then I think that looks really nice. And then as the sun moves into Sagittarius, then I think things get a little hairy again.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good overview. But I guess we should maybe start with the beginning. Start at the beginning of the fall.
Sure.
Right. So we're like as we're recording this, we're in the eclipse window. And we already had the first eclipse, and now we're having this so we had the lunar eclipse, the full moon lunar eclipse, and now we're having the new moon solar eclipse.
Hmm.
day before the fall equinox. So that's really kind of the beginning of this quarter. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, so new moon solar eclipse. So anytime we're ever talking about an eclipse, and what we're going to be talking about is shadows cast across otherwise bright shining objects, right? So a solar
Mm,
eclipse is when the sun, solar, is eclipsed, is cast into shadow, right? And so the sun, which otherwise would shine super brightly, is now in a shadow. And so with this kind of thing, we would expect a fair bit of uncertainty, especially around Virgo and Pisces things. So the way that I think about Virgo and Pisces things a lot is the same sort of situation before where I was talking about Venus and Virgo is are you looking at the trees, the details, or are you looking at the forest, the whole picture, right? And there's a constant tension between those. Sometimes it's right to look at the big picture and sometimes it's right to look at the details. And
Mm.
ideally, you would be able to sort of go back and forth and meet in the middle sometimes or just do the right thing at the right time. Eclipses love extremity. They love doing the
mhm.
most, the absolute most that is possible. That's what, if we think about the North Node as the head of the dragon, all it does is devour, just more, more, more devouring things. Or the South Node is the tail of the dragon. All it does is evacuate, more, more, more evacuation, getting rid of things, releasing, just all, right? And so it's very polarized in one direction or the other, right? And so we're not thinking with synthesis necessarily with that kind of situation, but rather polar extremes. And so I would expect through this time a lot of major polar opposition feeling between people
Mm.
and between ideas and ways of thinking about things. Like there's a kind of epistemological concern about things, like how do we come to know the things that we know.
Yeah.
And there's this question about details versus big picture, right? The sort of atomic science of it versus spirituality and the wholeness of the Tao, or this kind of, right, like there's a tension there, and those kinds of things are in deep conflict, but they're in a shadowy weird kind of place as well, where there is uncertainty as to what exactly is true. And so it's going to be very easy. This is one of the things about the echo chamber of the algorithmic internet, is that it's hard to know what's really true and what's really real, especially in the moment where, AI deepfakes and all the rest of that. Like,
Mm.
it's hard to know how to come to an understanding of what could be real and what could be true. And even if you are like, one of the things that I like to do is I like to listen to extremely opposite sides and listen to
Mhm.
people saying wild shit on either side, and then
Totally.
kind of come to my own understanding of what's going on. But I don't
Mhm.
have time to sift through everything, you
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah.
Who does? Who has this kind of time?
Mm.
And so
And
so
what are
at
you
some
getting served in the algorithm too?
Mhm.
So you might think you're getting a bunch of sides, but then you're like, wait a second.
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. So, and I, like no amount of ground news is gonna work that out for you. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you're still gonna, like, this is a little bit like expecting Snopes to know the truth or something like that. You know what
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean?
Hmm.
And so that sort of space, even when you're doing your best with that, then at some point you just kind of have to plant a flag and just be like, all right, I this is where I'm at with it, and so with that going on here, we can also notice that this solar eclipse is not only eclipsed, but it's also opposite to Saturn, directly opposite to Saturn, right? And so there's big no-no energy going on here. Like,
Yeah.
nah, not what you said, not what you
Yeah.
thought.
Right.
And so, and because of that, like strong opposition, it feels like everything turns into a fight.
Yeah.
And so then with that, and Venus in Virgo nitpicking nitpicking you to death about it. Like
Right.
it looks super squabbly at
So like the comment section, they're just it's wild.
yeah, the comment section
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do what you can do to stay out of the comment section.
Yeah.
Unless you want to talk about how pretty I am, you're welcome to do that in the comment section.
Yes, no, please comment on the video below.
Yeah.
Say whatever you want. Engagement, all engagement is good engagement.
Yeah.
Um, but no, what you're saying though, I wasn't sure if we wanted to talk about this or not, but what you're saying I think really speaks to where we're like recent events, like with Charlie Kirk, for instance, where
Mm,
there are people on the left are absolutely sure that he was a groyper and killed Charlie Kirk because he was not far right enough. And then you have people on the right who are very sure that he was an LGBT activist. And then you have other people who are rather sure that he was killed by a Mossad agent. And they all have their their like their reasons, their details, their nitpicking. They've got all these details to prove their case and
mhm.
their opinion. Um, but we don't. I mean, like, how do we know anything about this? But we all know that he was shot. Like that's one of
Mhm.
those things. Like it wasn't a deep fake. I mean, unless they got way better. That was what was interesting to me too. Like there can be so much um, um, misunderstanding and so much reading into things and so much shadow, so much Rahuvian shadow
Mhm.
over the facts of something, and it's not even about there's not even a deep fake involved. um,
Mm.
so yeah.
Yeah, right. So what I would think there is like I've been thinking about I don't know or care about Charlie Kirk, right? Like
Mhm.
this is not something that I have spent a lot of time with prior to
Right.
this incident. I
Yeah.
was
Right.
vaguely aware of him, knew some people who knew about him and whatever, but like didn't really hadn't been paying attention to his analysis or anything like that. So I can't really speak to that. But what I can think of through the last, I don't know, week or so of paying attention to this is that this situation is very much a Rorschach test for
Mhm.
whoever is around. So the idea is ink blots that could be anything, just like some kind of nebulous form. And
Is it
then
an
you look at,
elephant or is it a, bat or something like that, right? Like,
mhm. Or is it my parents arguing? You know?
right.
Or
So,
is it a vagina?
right, right. A lot of things that you can see in it. And
Yeah.
so what you're likely to see is the thing that is inside of you rather
Yeah.
than the thing that is outside in the world, right? And
Yeah.
so that is mostly what I see going on with the Charlie Kirk assassination
Hmm.
is no depend what you see is dependent on your own political view, your
Hmm.
own starting point. And so if you are ready to see uh, a leftist, a mad leftist, absurd insanity, uh, assassinating somebody who's telling the truth teller, then
Yeah.
you can see that in this image.
Yep.
Or if you want to see somebody, you call them a groiper, or if you want to see some conspiracy shit going on, or if you want to see like whatever you want to see in the space, you can find that thing here, especially
Yeah.
because it's all shrouded in this mystery.
Right.
And there is also an incentive to make something intelligible out of it immediately for the
Right.
sake of of growing your channel or whatever it is, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
so that and what I think is also really interesting about this moment is so we haven't yet seen Neptune moving back into Pisces. So that is to say that
Um,
Neptune is currently still in Aries. And so, what I said about that 2 episodes ago, maybe, was that I was mentioning that I think of Neptune as the wellspring of dreams, right? And so it's this place where metaphor and symbolism starts, and you take that metaphor and symbol and then enact it in the world of forms. And so, Neptune in Aries, the sign of war and the sign of, this is a Mars ruled sign. This is a sign that like is ready to get some shit started. Neptune was in Aries for the Civil War, for example, and the
Hmm.
United States Civil War and this, all of this kind of thing, right? So there's this imagination of victory, like being a victorious hero, especially a singular agent who is just like killing the bad guys, right?
Hmm.
That is what the kind of dream that Neptune wants to provide, right? And so the idea of political violence, throughout Neptune in Aries, there has been this ongoing, uh, you know, like how come somebody doesn't do it already, right?
Yeah.
Looking at, hoping that someone would assassinate Trump, that is the like hidden subtext there, right?
Right.
And
Hmm.
so, and so that has been a meme this whole time, right? And so it's this
Yeah.
idea of the glory of assassination that is coming up throughout this time. And so whether or not
Interesting.
you're for or against Charlie Kirk isn't really the point here. More
Hmm.
importantly, is the glory of the violent, bloody victory seems to be the thing that is coming up here, and that in the context of eclipses that want to be super and nitpicky, it looks like it really wants to polarize in this uncertain and confusing kind of way. And in order to make clarity out of confusion, then anger does a really good job of pointing you in a direction. Like
Hmm.
now we have this moral clarity and we got to kill the other guy. So let's go do it,
Yeah.
Yeah. Gives you
Yeah.
righteous purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Really
Yeah.
interesting.
So we've got this eclipse, and then right before the fall equinox. Is there anything else about this eclipse and the fall equinox that's interesting to you?
Hmm. Well, I think that so one of the things that's interesting to me about this eclipse is that it features Saturn so prominently. And so
Yeah.
Saturn is back into Pisces now. And so we're going to have to, and one of what part of what we see in this quarter is a regression back into the situations that we had had for years prior to this, right? So
Hmm.
for 2.5 years, Saturn has been in Pisces, and then we saw a little toe dip of Saturn in Aries, but we're back into Saturn in Pisces now. And Neptune has been in Pisces for the last 14 years, and we saw a little toe dip of Neptune into Aries, but in the middle of November, then Neptune is going to be back into Pisces. And for 7 years, Uranus has been in Taurus, and then we saw a little toe dip into Gemini, and then during I think it's October, Uranus is going to be moving back into Taurus. And so so we got a little glimpse of the future, right?
Right.
And so because we've been talking about the future is coming or the future is now since like 2020 or something like this, right? And then we're really about to round that corner, but not quite. There's still something else that we need to sort of consolidate, think into, be with for a little while, right? And so I think that this eclipse featuring that opposition to Saturn in Pisces, I think it's a really you know, it looks like it wants to emphasize that Saturn in Pisces piece in a really big way. And so on the world stage, that might look like, you know, the assassination of major pundits, and people who are saying stuff, right? This Charlie Kirk assassination happened while Mercury was in Virgo and even pretty close to the Cazimi there in Virgo as well. So, so like a strong speaking voice and then he gets shot in the throat. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
whoa, you know, and then that turns into this thing that is like widely broadcast. And so that
Wow.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of wild imagery to be had there, right?
Yeah. That's interesting.
But so it feels to me like during this time of regression, it's a good time to sort of, if we're thinking with Saturn, consolidation, right? So making things solid or tangible in some kind of way, but making the Pisces thing tangible in some kind of way. So coming to an understanding of what that Pisces wholeness could be. What is the kind of overarching belief structure that exists, and how can I make that into something that is tangible or real, so that by the time we move into the future for real, once we get into 2026, we're going to see all of these planets moving into their new positions and just staying there. So by the time we get to that, can we create a belief structure that will withstand the pressure of actually being in the world?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is so interesting to me too about how, well, I mean, first of all, like that the significations of these eclipses, we had that Mercury almost cazimi, and then with the solar eclipse we have that Saturn opposite the sun, and like that's a very like anti-establishment uh
Mm,
yoga in Vedic astrology. Saturn sun is like there's a problems with authority, there's
mhm,
this anti-authoritarian bent. Um and then with the sun being eclipsed. That's another signification there. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. But also to me, this peak that we've had this summer, and then the slip back into something that more normal before we go
mm.
fully into the brave new world of political assassinations and political violence and because it seems like that's that's one of the main things been happening this summer. I mean, it's not just Charlie Kirk. There's other things happening as well in that realm, and that's kind of to me one of the scariest things about the whole thing. Actually, isn't
Mm.
I mean like is just what
How
the
much
door.
normalizing violence there is.
Well, yeah, the door we've entered. You know, but that's that we've been talking about this for years about like the changes that are happening in 2025 and 2026 and so on. So
Mhm.
we've gotten a taste of what that will be. Um, yeah, but I guess to bring it down a level from that the meta politics. Yeah,
Right. So, and this is one of the things that I really, like what I tend to focus on with my channel and my content is less geopolitical
yeah,
and more about like, how do I be in this
right,
space,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah,
And so for me, I like to think about this regression of Saturn in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces and excuse me, all that sort of stuff. I like to think about that as, you know, is there a way for me to come to an understanding of like what I think is actually real?
hmm,
So I've been working on this course lately that has been, it's like an introduction to spirituality for people who are in a post-religious context, people who are who don't trust the traditional or conventional religions that they were born into, and because so many people have been wronged by the church and all of that, but there's still a God-shaped hole in their heart. And so a couple of people started asking me to coach them in that direction, and so I'm working on this course. And one of the things that I mention in that course is that to be smart is to make accurate predictions about how the world functions, how the world the way that things flow, right? Given a set of circumstances, let me predict the outcomes from that, right? And so, and that's what smart is, right? If it's, a smart person is somebody who makes more accurate predictions more frequently than a dumb person who makes less accurate predictions more frequently, right?
yeah,
So, so I would think that this time of Saturn and Neptune in Pisces especially. So Neptune in Pisces for me is an interesting one because I think of Neptune in Pisces as being so psychedelic. It's so interested in witchcraft and astrology and tarot and all of the like kind of the mystery traditions, all
hmm,
that sort of stuff gets really important with Neptune and Pisces. And I thought it was really interesting. As soon as Neptune went into Aries, then people started like hating Elon and his connection to ketamine. And so, because like I know some ketamine people in New York City, and they all their funding dried up in like a moment, you know?
Oh my
And so it
gosh.
became a
Wow.
whole situation where people who were using ketamine for these medicinal purposes to like, psychedelic and whatever, psychedelic medicine and healing and
Hmm.
all of that stuff, they had been such darlings and then suddenly weren't anymore, right?
Wow.
And so with Neptune moving back into Pisces, I wonder if we have a moment here to be like, okay, can we take some of this mysterious wisdom, mysterious outsider knowledge, and make it into something that is tangible that I can count on so that, like, a belief system that actually makes sense to me, so that as we move forward, with Saturn and Aries, one of the things that, I don't know, 3 years ago, something like that, Palace came on my show, and it was Saturn in Aquarius at that time. And she was like, pretty soon we're not going to have Saturn in dignity anymore.
Hmm.
And we had at that point had 5 years of Saturn just in Saturn signs. And so it was
Mm.
really easy to do the Saturn things. You could just
Hmm.
count on a certain amount of responsibility and reliability. And, if you do the monotonous thing, then you can get an idea that it actually is going to pay off in the long run and this kind of thing. And so Palace was like, we're going to run out of that pretty soon, right?
Okay.
We're going to
Hmm.
and so now with Saturn in Pisces, we still get some good Saturn because Saturn in Pisces is ruled by and making a trine to the ruler of Pisces, which is Jupiter. And so Jupiter's trying to be like, yeah, do the Saturn stuff. Yes to Saturn, right? But as Saturn moves into Aries in February of next year, then we're gonna run out of good Saturn, and we're gonna have 2.5 years of pretty whack Saturn. And
Mm.
so I think that this is a good time to where you can implement or generate some infrastructure that helps you to be on target, that helps you to keep your eye focused on the thing that actually matters. Now is the time to get that moving. Now is the time to
Hmm.
get yourself into these habits and routines, especially habits and routines that reflect your core belief system, your core values. And it's important to remember that values and desires come out of discovery. They are not imposed from the outside, but rather you come to understand what they are by noticing your actions and noticing your responses to other things, right? If you
Mm.
can come into contact with those values, those core values, make some structures that help you to sit in that and enact those tangibly in the world, then by creating those habits now while you've got the good Saturn, you can help to improve your outcomes even in the long term.
Yeah.
Good to think about.
Yeah, very helpful for people right now too in their
Hmm.
personal life. And I guess something that you said too triggered something for me, and I kind of want to go back up to the meta level for a second,
Mhm.
um, because we're talking about Neptune in Pisces, right? And Neptune does well in Pisces. For the modern astrologers, give Neptune dignity in Pisces.
Mhm.
Um, And so we've seen over this period of time that things like tarot and witch talk and all these kind of things have gotten very popular. You have like these baby witches cursing the moon. You have stuff like that. You know what I mean? And it's like just kind of this like kind of innocent free for all in a certain
Or
way.
cursing Charlie Kirk, if you
They
will.
did that as well. I'm
But
just gonna
that's
say.
that's what I want to talk about actually. So that story got really huge that people uh, hired Etsy witches to curse Charlie Kirk less than a week before he died, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so what I think what over these last years, this blossoming of these things has happened in a context where most people don't believe in witchcraft and they don't
Hmm.
believe in anything really. I mean,
Hmm.
they have a fundamental material reductionist belief system. Um, but I think that a lot of people who are brazenly like hexing whoever they want to um, take that for granted. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And what I kind of see with Neptune going into Aries is sort of the blowback, the
Mm-hmm.
reaction. What's the
Yeah,
popular reaction then to all of this?
right.
And there's a lot of other people who are going into along with with Neptune going Neptune going through Pisces. There's also been a lot of people getting into Catholicism and
Mm-hmm.
Greek Orthodox and stuff like that. And what happens when more people believe that this stuff is real, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then like there was a time when witches were burned, you know what I mean? And
Sure.
it wasn't all just because of the patriarchy. There was also a thing where like if you think that your neighbor is cursing you, what are you going to do about it?
Sure.
And if nobody thinks that hexing or cursing is real and people are then no one cares. But when people start believing that it's a real thing and
Mm-hmm.
people are dying or there are like these things, what do you think the blowback to that will be? So that's kind of what I see with this Neptune going into Aries as well.
Right. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, it doesn't look good for someone in my position. I will say that. I've made it. Uh, I've gotten a certain level of public recognition on my ability to predict the future based on a mystery tradition that doesn't make sense to outsiders. So, um, so I don't necessarily like the idea of, you know, and publicizing a hex. Like, I don't. This seems like poor form, at least.
Amateur hour.
Amateur hour, yeah. Well, but
Right.
the thing is, like, there are a lot of the authorities, and and I'm saying authorities, I'm saying like big names in the neo-pagan community are
Sure.
brazenly doing this,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they feel full of righteous indignation to do it. But that is one thing I do want to kind of reiterate for the show is like that we've kind of always been, I don't think hexing or cursing is almost ever really a good idea in the first place. There's usually better ways to work magically, more strategic ways. But it's like kind of always a better idea to bless and protect and
Cultivate
cultivate what you want rather than to attack what you don't want. That's my perspective. So I just want to make that clear for the
for the
listeners
record.
too. Yeah, for
Yeah.
the record. But again, I mean, I'm an astrologer. I like doing all these strange things. So that blowback is gonna affect me as well and affect people who aren't doing malefic magic on their neighbors.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah. I think as we see greater acceptance in the cultural zeitgeist, I think we are looking at, uh, you know, the Catholic Church doesn't outlaw witchcraft because they don't think it's real, right? It's
Right.
because they think it's real and they want it to stop. And
Yeah.
so I think we are likely headed in a direction like that, you know? Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly how this goes because the widespread acceptance, like, are we going to criminalize all the astrology girlies? Like, this seems ridiculous.
Yeah,
Um,
it could also just be the case that they all lose interest.
could be. It could be. I'm interested. So what I've been saying about Saturn in Aries is that it's the pirate ship, right?
Yeah,
Like it's
right.
you do like sure that they're gonna say the rules are gonna be whatever they say they are, but then like the actual rules of actually living in the world, that's what we actually care about. And we might pay lip service to whatever the government says, but we're actually gonna live in whatever ways that we're actually gonna live.
Hmm.
And so I would expect, so Neptune in Aries is going to outlast Saturn in Aries by like 10 years or something. So
Hmm.
there's a much longer arc there.
Mm.
But I think throughout Saturn in Aries, it is likely to be that kind of we do what we want and see how things shake out
Mm.
beyond that. So yeah, that I don't think the clock is going to run out on being able to do magic and witchcraft publicly, but I would like people to maybe remember why occult traditions are hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, like it maybe doesn't need to be everybody's business.
Mm-hmm.
You
To
know,
know, to will, to dare, and to be silent. There's a reason to be silent. I mean, we're talking about this on a podcast that anybody can listen to, but
We're not talking about everything.
but there's a reason to be silent. I
this
mean,
is true.
Giordano Bruno didn't curse or hex anybody, but he was burned at the stake because
Sure,
he
sure.
didn't.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't, you don't necessarily have to be into hexes and curses, right? And like, you know, the way that I treat hexes and curses is like, is it ever appropriate to punch a motherfucker in the face? Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like
Mm-hmm.
you cause harm and damage by doing that, but like sometimes they be having it coming. So
Yeah.
like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you get me to a point where aggression is what we got to do, then
Yeah.
yeah, I guess aggression is what we have to do. So up to that point, how many honey jars can we do?
Mm-hmm.
How much blessing and how much like what can we do to avoid this conflict?
Mm-hmm.
But if it comes time to like it, you know, sometimes it does come down to that, and I think that we need to reckon with that. You know.
Yeah,
I
and I
think
think
that we're
that
going to have to be able, as we cultivate things, one of the things that we're going to need to be able to cultivate is our own capacity to push back when we need to.
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like these are kind of a lot of the themes that Neptune going through Aries will be bringing up
Hmm. Hmm.
too,
And
along with
speaking,
political violence. Yeah,
right, sure, yeah, yeah, well, sure, yeah, plenty of political violence and the dream of victory and all that,
the
but you know,
hero. Yeah,
and the hero, right? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting to be like, okay, so I've been talking so loud for all these years about how I would shelter Anne Frank in my apartment or whatever it was, and then, you know, I think that there's a sense that in a propaganda environment where you really start to believe that the other guy is a real Hitler or a real Pol Pot, a genuine threat, then it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this is my time to make
Mm-hmm.
good on my promise here. I gotta go
Mm-hmm.
kill somebody about it. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And so like that, I expect that to be more and more of a thing.
yeah, yeah.
But on the personal level, like where we are for like actual listeners who are actually listening to the show, and
Mm-hmm.
Right.
for people who are, um, you know, for I think that you have generally a pretty reasonable listenership.
I hope
Um,
so. Yeah, no, I'm sure
for the
too.
most part,
I love
everybody who
hope.
has come to get a reading from me from this audience has been
Mm-hmm.
delightful,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and you know, like this, I like these folks a lot. For
I
these
just also
kinds
want
of
to say, likewise, everybody that I've met that's been
Mm-hmm.
a listener, I very much enjoy, and it's actually really wonderful to meet the people because they're like really interesting people who are going in the right direction, and yeah, I
right,
Mm-hmm.
just want to
right.
say that. Yeah,
Yeah.
And I bet the direction that they're going in next July, in the last weekend of July, is
Yeah.
toward
the the Plant
toward
Cunning Conference, the
the
third
plant.
Plant Cunning Conference. Yep,
Yes.
Yeah,
In
yep.
that's what I heard.
person
That's
event.
a little birdie told me that. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But if we were gonna meet people, if we were gonna meet delightful listeners of this show, then that's probably what we would do. We would probably go
Mm-hmm.
to the Plant Cutting Conference in late July of
Yes.
next year, and we would get together and we would have a delightful time where I bet
Mm-hmm.
Isaac is gonna play some music, because I don't know if y'all
Mm-hmm.
know that Isaac is a badass on his instrument. I didn't
He
know.
is.
I thought he mentioned that he did music and whatever,
You
like
don't know until
okay,
you see
whatever,
it.
man. Yeah, and then he gets and like he's like, yeah, I haven't touched the instrument in a year and a half, and he just goes and kills motherfuckers. It's crazy. So
Yeah. No,
you should
he's
come to the
legit.
event.
And you can listen to his band, The Hills and the Rivers, on all the listening places. So if anyone's
Mhm.
like, I do want to see Isaac play, there's some YouTube videos that are really cute.
yeah.
So yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Zamboni.
So yeah, for sure. If all you do is you just want to come see Isaac play, then
Yeah.
you will the price of admission will be worth that for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zamboni. That's
Yeah.
very sweet.
But
Um,
anyway, so what I'm trying to do here is
Mhm.
for people in this delightful listenership, people who am looking forward to meeting at the Plant Cutting Conference that's going to happen on July 24th of next year. Uh, I feel like we're really talking about here is cultivating a lot of personal power, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Cultivating, internal strength and an internal capacity to understand what's going on in the world, to like have a good bit of vision on it, to focus on the right thing, to see that thing, and to maintain concentration on it, right? And
Yeah.
what I really like about this quarter that we're moving into is Mercury and Mars in Scorpio. I think that
Mm. Mhm.
that arrangement is going to be really good for cultivating that kind of personal power.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I'm also looking forward to the Mars and Scorpio season. Um, es-
Hmm.
Mercury there too is good. But Mars is in Scorpio for a minute there, and um, I have got some elections figured out. I don't have any public ones to share, but if you've been listening and you listened to the last episode with John Michael Greer about making talismans, paper talismans with fluid condensers and herbal fluid condensers. This is a great time, in addition to making the Jupiter talisman, Jupiter ones, Mars and Scorpio. That's a great way to. I mean, it's Mars is a little bit more malefic than Jupiter. It's a a lot more malefic than Jupiter, but it's a good introduction, a good toe dip, because that Mars and Scorpio is pretty nice. So
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a great Mars and Scorpio. I really like Mars and Scorpio. I just like Scorpio placements a lot of times. Again, maybe this is a personal bias, but something about the precision and the accuracy of both precision and accuracy of Scorpio feels really, I don't know, powerful. That in a way
Mm-hmm.
that I really like. And so I've been thinking about Mercury there as well as being very good for strategic victory,
Yeah. Yeah.
for like looking at what's going on and just clocking it, just having a good understanding of what's going on the battlefield
Mm-hmm.
and approaching in such a way as to win because of your approach. Like, I've been thinking, I think I mentioned Sun Tzu earlier, right? It's this idea that um, by saying a certain thing or by understanding things in a certain kind of way, that's Mercury's job, right? Mercury is the communicator planet. Mercury is the one who both speaks and listens, right? It's important to remember that communication is both expression and impression. It is both writing and reading, right? It's this
Hmm.
sense of being able to understand what's going on in my head, be able to communicate that intelligibly to another, and then when they communicate to me, then I can make intelligible what they have said or communicated, right? And if we're thinking with Mercury in a water sign, then a lot of it's going to be nonverbal as well, right? So it's this idea of
Mm.
reading the room or
Okay.
clocking a situation rather than just speaking to it directly, right? And so this looks like a really good situation for strategy games, for understanding what's going on and then making sure to position myself in a good way in order to get the outcomes that I want. That's what victory is, right? Is for me to get the outcome that I want, even if there are other opposing forces who would want something else, but I got what I wanted. That's victory, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's a lot of really good Mercury, or well, yeah, kind of Mercury, but some the Mars elections are really nice during this
Yeah.
time. And if you are interested in elections, I do an electional report on my Patreon where you can get um, a whole list of times when you can launch and times when you can avoid because there's bullshit going on. And so all of that is available on my website and all this. But
Recommended.
Very
Yeah.
helpful.
cool, cool. Yeah, thanks.
Hmm.
But so but a lot of times, so there's Picatrix magic, right?
Yeah.
Which cares very much about the election. The timing it has to be perfect for it.
Hmm.
And you did mention that you wanted me to bring an election, and so if you'd like to check out an election, the 13th of October at around midnight
Mm-hmm.
is a pretty good look. That's going to be Cancer rising. So with my Patreon report, there are Picatrix elections in there. And
Mhm.
so you will be able to make talismans with some of those elections. But for the most part, it's for average people who have not spent a bunch of time reading an 11th century text that was translated from the Arabic into the Latin into the English. And you know what I mean? Like most folks
Yeah.
aren't going that hard with it. And as well, you should not. Picatrix magic is very powerful and as such can blow your shit up sometimes. Ask me how I know.
Yeah.
How do you know, Zamboni?
Don't you worry about that. That's my business.
Well, it's like sometimes you might ask for a lamp and you get a lamp, but it's broken. So you have to
Right.
ask for a working lamp, or you have to be very careful about what you're doing with it, right?
Yeah, or like it might be a the lamp you like plug it in and shock yourself because
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like you
Like,
got the lamp
okay,
that you asked for and it's beautiful, but like it but it
Right.
causes all this other
sure.
problem, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
now your house is on fire.
And
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
also good for a lot of people who just starting out to just do like a basic talisman to just improve their Mars, or like if you do like a Mars talisman in like a basic one, like a paper one with the fluid condenser, you're just gonna get a boost to your capacity to get things done and like strategically think and like
What if you have an
have action.
afflicted Mars though,
Yeah,
and
then
then
you
it's
then you shouldn't do that necessarily.
firing it up
But
and
then that's the nice thing about the paper talismans is you can get rid of them easily.
uh-huh.
So
Hmm.
Totally, totally.
just put your
So
foot in, yeah. But as yeah, you were saying that normal people, just everyday
Yeah,
people.
just everybody else, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So what I'm saying here is that Pikachu's talismans are great. They're super powerful, and you can find those kinds of elections in my Patreon report. But for the most part, for most folks, everyday elections where you want to send an important email, you want to go on a first date, where you want to launch your product for your internet business, or like these
Hmm.
kinds of things.
Hmm.
There's really good times available, and so for the most part that's what people are going to be going for. And there's plenty of those times available on the report. And what I would say here throughout this whole time is whether or not you want to get deep into the timing and time it to the minute and with the make sure that the hours, the planetary hour is correct. Like you don't necessarily have to do that. What I would do throughout this quarter is wait until the moon is in Cancer and then do your thing. Just let the
Okay.
moon be in Cancer with Jupiter. If that's all you did, you're going to win a way stronger proportion of times than somebody who waited for the moon to be in Sagittarius. The moon in Sagittarius, not having as much fun as the moon in Cancer is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But then they would be a mutual exchange.
Yeah, but they don't make an aspect to one another.
That's
So,
true. Yeah, right.
and then the moon in
Pisces,
Cancer
or
is going
then
to be looking at
Pisces,
square
there's
to
the
Saturn in
North
Pisces.
Node,
Try me, bro.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, so why October 13th? What's happening then that you like?
The moon is in Cancer.
Oh, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so, and that's going to be the moon in Cancer trying to Mars and Mercury in Scorpio, also trying to Saturn in Pisces. And so, if what you're looking for is victory, if what you're looking for is an ability to do whatever thing, like, so I think that a lot of times what you'll see with Jupiter and Mars aspects is that Jupiter just kind of says yes to Mars. And so
Mhm.
that's really good for victory. That's why I've been saying that so much here. But
Mm.
also, so if you did this midnight on the 13th of
Hmm.
October, if you did that one, then you would probably then you would have moon Jupiter on the eastern horizon, and so you'd be looking toward that Jupiter. And so what you'll end up doing, or moon, I think it's moon hour that day. And so Moon and Jupiter in Cancer wants to grow things, wants to nourish, wants to like feel good in my body and be comfortable. Ooh, we just love it in
Hmm.
here, right? That's what you typically want with that kind of thing. And so because Mercury and Mars in Scorpio are making a trine, a supportive relationship to that, and Saturn in Pisces is making a trine, a supportive relationship to that, then it looks like the malefics, the ones who create guardrails and who are powerful, are in support of the growth and the harmony and all of that sort of stuff that you want from Jupiter and Moon in Cancer. And so sometimes it's like this idea that if I'm going to sleep properly, then I need to have a safe place to do it in. I need to be able to lock the door so I can be asleep and naked and not worry about intruders coming in. Because if in the event, like there was a time that I was homeless for a while and I was sleeping on trains and shit. And so at no point was I naked, and I was always under lights and this kind of thing. And I was
Mhm.
sleeping with one eye open. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, it's probably somebody who's gonna come mess with me. It's gonna be a cop. It's gonna be another homeless dude. It's gonna be like
Mhm.
some kind of situation all the time,
Mhm.
right? And so
Mhm.
you can't get comfortable in the way that Sun or Moon, Jupiter in Cancer wants to be comfortable without the malefic stuff, the like, nah, y'all ain't coming over here kind of
Mhm.
vibes, right? So with that protection, then of the malefics, then you can really get into that comfortable growth, nurturing nursery kind of space. So I really like this for that.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And so you, when you say the 13th, it's like sort of a dumb question, but do you mean midnight on that Monday, the 13th, or midnight the
Right.
following Tuesday? Okay, just making sure.
You are correct. Right. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's going to be, and you're going to have to look at it for your location. So I actually think that
Right.
11:50 or so on
Uh-huh.
the 12th is probably going to be good for East Coast folks.
Uh-huh.
Whereas in my location, it's going to be like a little after midnight in you, on the 13th. So
Oh, okay.
you're straddling 12 and 13 at that midnight
Ah,
point.
okay. So it's Sunday night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going into Monday. Got it.
Hmm.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah,
Just
for sure. For sure.
point of clarification. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
taking
There's
notes.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And this is the problem with the clock that we use
I
because
know.
it doesn't make any sense that that's the moment
No.
when one day turns into the next one. So
It never has.
Yeah, why don't we just have sunrise?
Or the
because it
24
moves, the
hour.
sunrise moves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's actually probably why, because the northern for the northern countries, because like in the tropics it doesn't really move much.
I know,
You know
it's
what I mean?
great. I lived in Costa Rica for a while and I just did 6 to 6 every day. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And
yeah.
I think that's probably why, like, there are a lot of things with Vedic astrology that like kind of take that for granted, you know what I mean? And there are certain things with the Anglo tradition of Western astrology that we practice, like through Lily and all of them, um, that take the northern uh hemisphere for granted, like being that far north. Houses
Mm.
like the I think that's probably why there's like Placidus houses as well, and those kind of quadrant houses. But that's kind of an aside. So what are you not looking forward to this fall? Like what should people avoid?
Okay, well, so after Scorpio season, so
Yeah.
I mentioned how difficult Libra season is because Venus in Virgo and all that. Oh, by the way, while the sun is in Scorpio, Venus is also going to be in Libra. And so
Yeah.
this is more essential dignity. So if you want to pile on your nice blessings, looking for cash and prizes and this kind of thing, Venus in Libra looks real cute for that. But as the sun moves into Sagittarius, then things start to get a little weird and hairy. So it's worth noting that this is a very Mercury Mars heavy quarter. So we've got Mercury and Mars together in Scorpio. I really like that for the cultivation of personal power, but it also
Mhm.
very much looks like um, publicly jousting and talking shit on the other guy, right?
Yeah.
Word as
Arguments.
sword,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
Word
Probably
as
good for
weapon.
lawyers. The lawyer special.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally. Especially like zeroing in on a definition and like picking apart the definition and being like, and so, you know, like
Yeah.
the glove don't fit. I don't know what to tell you. Like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So, but then, all right, so it's a lot of like Mercury and Mars, and then both of them move into Sagittarius. And so you get both Mercury and Mars in Sagittarius. Mercury is way less comfortable in Sagittarius than like any other place, basically. And then is also slowing down and stations retrograde pretty closely conjunct that Mars. And so this looks like a moment where things want to kind of blow up a little bit. They're, um, you know, where Mercury, Mars, and Scorpio is very strategic and might even be a little bit, quiet about things. Only says the least necessary thing, or the only the necessary bits, says only the necessary bits and doesn't say everything. Mercury in Sagittarius is going to say everything and going to say it loudly and going to
Okay.
be real brash and in your face about it with that Mars there. So that looks like it wants to like turn into a lot. But then as the sun moves into Sagittarius, then Mars continues moving along and we start to see a square between Mars in Sagittarius and Saturn in Pisces. And so that looks like gear grindy is the way that I always talk about a Mars Saturn aspect. It looks like a lot of frustration. It looks like a lot of friction. Also, like you mentioned before, Cancer and Sagittarius, there's mutual rulership there between Moon and Jupiter, but they don't make an aspect to one another. So Saturn is in position to really impede the kind of adventuresome spirit of Sagittarius, right? Sagittarius is out here trying to build a bridge and see what's going on out there and like talk to the other guys and see, woo, oh, there's all this adventure and maybe we can go to the beyond place and all, right? Sagittarius is very excited about it, has a lot of zest for life, right? But Saturn in Pisces is going to be in position to block that. And even though Jupiter is in charge of that Saturn and in charge of everything going through Sagittarius, there's less of this Jupiterian influence where Jupiter can just help and just be glorious and wonderful the way that Jupiter was being to Scorpio planets. In Sagittarius, there's no aspect, there's no sight line there. And so the way that I often talk about that is like using the Force. You know what I mean? It's like when Luke Skywalker is like navigating the Death Star and he can't see anything properly, and so Yoda tells him to just use the Force, and so he's not looking, he's not using his instruments, it's vibes, it's all vibes, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And so if you're not a Jedi master, then vibes will lead you into the wall sometimes, right?
Sure.
And so running into the wall definitely looks like it is a situation that wants to come up big time with that Saturn in Pisces there, especially since we get some major lunations also that are just directly square to that Saturn. And so it looks like the kind of thing where we run into a lot of obstacles. And so my advice to listeners and to people who are interested in sort of growing their own power and their own uh, personal infrastructure is go hard during Scorpio season, get things set up, and kind of avoid the other sides of it. Avoid Libra and
Oh.
Sagittarius season.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah, I think that's very good advice. And yeah, that time period too, you have Venus in Libra, so that's also a great time to do some Venus stuff on
Mhm.
Fridays. Another time to experiment with the fluid condensers or that kind of a thing. Or
Mhm.
just light a candle and say the Orphic hymn to Venus. So there's some pretty good opportunities in that time period for sure.
Yeah, and that Venus in Libra is so Libra, the sign of the scales, right?
Yeah.
And so there's this sense of negotiation that shows up with Venus in Libra a lot. Like, what is like, there's this question around fairness and justice, but fairness and justice is about what's good for me and what's good for you, right? Like, ultimately, commerce is the kind of thing that makes both of us richer,
Yeah.
right? Because I have pens and you have pigs and we can work
Yeah.
together. You have need for what I have and I have need for what you have, and we can, by exchanging, then both of us are richer, right? That's the
Hmm.
ideal situation for commerce and trade. And so Venus in Libra, Venus, who is at home and comfortable in Libra and who is able to do the Venus things, the cooperation, the friendliness, the togetherness, and beauty and elegance and grace. And I think of Venus in Libra as the hostess with the mostess a lot, right?
Uh-huh.
Like the cocktail party where everything is glorious and magnificent. And
Hmm.
oh, I can't believe that she put it all together in this way. Oh, like the, and then the vibes are really nice at the event because
Hmm.
Venus and Libra was able to take care of it. And then because of that feeling, then we feel like spending money and cash and prizes are out here happening and all that kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
So I think about that kind of negotiation piece. And also, Venus in Libra is going to be under a square from Jupiter in Cancer. This is one of the traditional conditions of bonification. It's like one of the best things that can happen to a planet basically is being under a square or a trine from Jupiter, which is
Hmm.
why stuff in Libra and Scorpio are under this square and trine from Jupiter looks so good.
Hmm.
So this looks like Venus is very well empowered to do that. But then also, at the same time that Venus in Libra is looking at negotiation, then Mars in Scorpio is very powerful and very much concerned with victory, right?
Hmm.
And so it's walk softly and carry a big stick style. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, ooh,
Yeah.
I would love for us to trade. Sure would be a shame if we had to start shooting instead of trading. Don't you want to trade? Wouldn't this be so much better if we would, why don't we both get rich? Wouldn't this be fun? I could
Yeah.
take it, but I don't want to do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then another way of looking at that is like Venus is this diplomacy, this ability
Absolutely.
to be diplomatic, and then the Mars in Scorpio gives you the strategy.
Hmm.
So you've got like it's a
Mm.
good general and businessman kind of combination, or not a combination because they're not combined, but in the skies. It's really
Yeah.
good for that strategy, but for whatever you're doing, whether it's business or it's pleasure,
Hmm.
or it's cultivating personal power. That is a nice period of time there.
Totally.
Also
Totally.
depending on your chart and everything, but it goes without
Yeah.
saying. But it's some good energies to harvest while they're there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that a lot. The
Hmm.
idea of harvest,
Hmm.
you know, um, because one of the things that I struggle with sometimes with Picatrix magic is that it is there's almost a scarcity mindset to it. You
Yeah.
know, Jupiter's only going to be in Cancer for one
Right.
year out of every 12. And this is such a perfect position for Jupiter. Jupiter, we love to see an exalted Jupiter, and there's not very much of that in the sky. And so you got to make sure and do your Picatrix magic right now because we're never going to get this back, is kind of how
Yeah.
it feels, right?
Yeah.
Or Mars in Scorpio, same way. Or especially with the slower moving planets, it's a bigger deal.
Hmm.
And I don't know that the scarcity mindset is the right way to approach Jupiter in Cancer,
Mm-hmm.
whose job is joy, luck, and abundance, is
Yeah.
whose job is to grow things, whose job is faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, I've been thinking with how to sort of put these things together here. And so for one thing, I tried to do a Jupiter election over this past quarter, and my engraving tool broke
Oh
Oh.
in
no.
the middle of the election. And I was like, I think with this moon Jupiter in Cancer, I'm supposed to just be in bed. I'm supposed
Right.
Uh,
to, it was 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. I
Right.
had fucked up my sleep schedule for Jupiter in Cancer. It was just like, this is counterintuitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Interesting. Hmm.
And so, you know, I I wonder if there is a certain amount of faith that we can put into things. If there's a certain amount of just like embodying the Jupiter in Cancer
Yeah, I see.
that
Yeah.
that might be a little bit less, I don't know, extractive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know about it yet. But for me, I've been working on this course and everything. And so, and Jupiter in Cancer is right in it's like all up in my piece. And so this is great. I love it. Um, and I'm very much looking forward to Malefics being out of the way. But,
Mm-hmm.
um, Jupiter's job is to teach. And so I have spent a lot of time working on this course and teaching and thinking with morality and ethics and in a spiritual space and all this kind of thing, right? Very Jupiter kind of things. And so I don't necessarily think that um, making the stone, even though I understand why we would want to make the stone that's going to endure for all time and this kind of thing, right? There's going to be a bunch of times that we don't, like in a couple of years, we're going to have Jupiter in Virgo, and that's going to be a way less comfortable situation than Jupiter in Cancer, right? And so maybe you want to bring some Jupiter in Cancer with you to that time. And so it feels like you got to get it now. And so
Mm-hmm.
I get that. I feel that. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I don't know that approaching Jupiter in Cancer with the scarcity mindset is the way that we do our best magic,
Yeah.
you know?
So this brought up something for me just now because we've been talking about this a little bit. We have this hedge of elderberries in front of our
Mm,
house, and
hmm
it gets all the rain from the roof, and when I pee on it, it gets all the fertilization, and it's really wonderful. And we had so many berries this year, so
mm,
many berries. And at a moment, I'm like, we got to get all these berries, got to harvest them, blah, blah, blah.
hmm
And then there's the birds are eating them, and we got to before the birds. But and she very gracefully reminded me, we've already made tincture, we've already frozen so many. We can make a pie, but why not just let the birds have them? So I think a way to think about is like there is so much Jupiter in Cancer right now. Get what you
hmm
can. Use what you can, but you don't have to get every little last drop of it. There's so much, there's enough for everybody. So
Yeah,
if what you can do, if is sleep with it or make some talismans just on a Thursday, like some like lower intensity talismans on a Thursday
right.
or but whatever you want, whatever you do, um, it's like you don't have to. Maybe that's kind of a balance point. Just not,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I I'm not entirely sure what to think about it yet,
Mm.
but I do I don't know. Maybe it's because Jupiter's in the sky right now, and so it's easy to have faith, but I like the idea of just having a certain amount of faith
Yeah.
yeah,
in the idea that like it's gonna work out, it's gonna be okay, and I don't have to like white
right.
knuckle it the whole time.
Well, I think
Yeah.
there's this equilibrium between like the white knuckling and the just like not harvesting any of the berries because
Sure.
when it comes time to January and somebody's getting a little sick, you want that elderberry tincture there. You
Totally.
want that elderberry, you know what I mean?
But when it comes down to it, if you're in a place where there's no elderberry tincture and somebody's sick, can you call on the spirit and the faith that elder as a plant medicine will heal that person without even taking any elderberry syrup?
Mm,
Like
mm,
maybe you're speaking to that faith that like, yeah, we're going to go into a time where Jupiter's not as happy, not in Cancer, but can we like call upon just the memory of Jupiter in Cancer and like the power of Jupiter and the relationship we've cultivated with Jupiter in this time when it gets them to be a little more uncomfortable.
right. Yeah, that's a great point. I also think a little bit about what kind of relationship are you cultivating with Jupiter at
Hmm.
all times? You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like the idea that Jupiter is in Cancer right now, and so I got to get all this stuff. That feels a little bit extractive to me, and it
Yeah,
Hmm.
feels like a relationship that is less friendly than the
yeah,
Hmm.
kind of thing where it's like me and Jupiter are homies all 12 years. And then
Hmm.
it happens that Jupiter is in a great mood right now. So
Yeah.
please offer me whatever kind of joy and abundance you got.
Bring it
But
on.
even when Jupiter, like one of the things that I frequently say to people is Jupiter in Capricorn, which is a fallen position for Jupiter. That's actually one of my favorite Jupiter positions because it's
Mm.
so crafty. It's so,
mm,
I call it the MacGyver position, right? It's like,
Mm.
okay, I'm stuck, I'm locked up in a basement here, and all I have is a shoelace, a matchstick, and a paperclip, and I got to make it work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And Jupiter
right.
in Capricorn is really good at making that kind of situation work, right?
Hmm.
And so I wonder if there are ways to be cool and friendly with the planets even such that we can be friendly when they're in a good mood and
Hmm.
by being cool with them all the rest of the time, perhaps that's part of the faith.
Mm.
Yeah. But
Totally.
but there still is I think like there's the relationship that that develops through, I mean, like even just like every Thursday or like on Thursdays, burning a
Mhm.
candle and reciting the Orphic hymn. While Jupiter is in Cancer, it's a great time to establish a relationship with him because he's in
Sure.
a good mood. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I have done some like honoring and praying to Jupiter. I feel like I do have like a relationship to Jupiter, but I also feel like I have a relationship to Saturn who I've done like very little praying to, but I'm just kind of Saturn's bitch because of the positions of Saturn in my chart. And so I like bow to
Totally.
Saturn every
Uh-huh.
day without, or maybe he forces my hand down, but
Yeah,
I do feel closer to the planet that I like talk to on a regular basis.
right. Well, also, I don't know that Saturn wants me in his peace every day. You know what I
No,
mean? I
he's
feel like
sort of
Saturn,
an ornery old man who, yeah, it's true.
yeah, like get the fuck out of my swamp. What are you doing here again?
Yes, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's funny.
So I don't know. These are things to think with. I don't
Yeah,
have answers here,
Yeah,
but this is an interesting question, I think.
yeah.
sure. Okay, well, yeah, so is there anything else we want to leave the guests with before we wrap it up for this fall?
Mm, cultivate your aim.
Hmm. Yeah.
Cultivate
Yeah.
your sense of what is true to you,
Hmm.
and do build out your internal predictive model of the world so that you can make reasonably good predictions about the world and use that predictive model to point yourself in the direction of the more beautiful world that your heart knows is possible. Keep your eye on the prize, shoot at that prize with zest and gusto, and have some faith that if you shoot hard, you'll get at least close.
Mm. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Thanks, Zamboni.
that was wonderful.
I was
Thank
just
y'all so much for having
thinking,
me. I always have fun here.
yes,
Yeah.
and I love keeping up with you on your dailies and weeklies on socials. So if you're ever wondering if you're like, should I keep doing this? Like, just know that I'm on the other side of the phone, being like, nodding my head like I am with you on this interview, and like, yes, yeah, that's right, and like taking notes. So like, please keep doing them. We love them. And if you're not following Zamboni, just go ahead and do that right now.
Yeah, ZamboniFunk in all the places.
Zamboni
Appreciate
Funk
y'all.
in all
I
places.
appreciate
Yeah.
y'all for saying that. That's really nice, and I do have that feeling sometimes. So I'm glad that it's coming across.
Anytime you see my face on a video, it's like pulling teeth. So I also don't love making real, like, it's not my favorite thing. So I needed to hear that sometimes. So I'm glad that you need to hear that too. So keep it up.
Word up.
Yeah. All right. Cheers. Thank you so much, Zamboni, and we'll see you again soon.
All right, peace and blessings, fam.
Peace.